Thank you so much for joining us today for part 3 of our spring healthcare webinar series, How to Leverage iPad to Monitor Patients at Home. My name's Adam Mahmood, and I'm the industry lead of healthcare here at Jamf. And I'm joined by a very special guest, Lindsay Koshansky, Vice President of Clinical Innovation at Locus. So here's a brief look at our agenda for today. We'll start with an overview of Jamf, who we are and why we do what we do, followed up by a deep dive into industry priorities and initiatives in healthcare. And from that, transition more specifically into iOS solutions for remote patient monitoring. Lindsay will give us an overview of the Locus Health solution and a demo of their great applications, and we'll leave a little time at the end for questions and answers. Regarding those questions, please submit them through the Q&A function in WebEx, not chat, so we can properly address them. And as always, this will be recorded and posted on jamf.com sometime next week. So for those of you who aren't familiar, we at Jamf help organizations succeed with Apple. It's really the mission we've been on for over 16 years. And, it's because we embrace the native Apple technology experiences that consumers have come to know and love. And it's why we spend all of our time focusing on zero-day support for everything that Apple releases. We've been supporting new versions and features of their operating systems and the management functions of those operating systems better and faster than anyone. Now, more specifically, we offer mobile device management for the entire Apple ecosystem. Whether an organization is deploying Mac, iPhone, iPad, or Apple TV, Jamf can help. Today, we have more than 26,000 organizations that rely on our products. And, these are certainly in all different industries around the globe. In healthcare, we have 7 of the top 10 U.S. children's hospitals using our products, and 14 of the top 20 U.S. adults hospitals using Jamf. Now, from a product perspective, we've had 2 core MDM solutions available for quite some time. Jamf Now, our simple, lightweight MDM, which you can be up and running with in minutes, and really does not require any IT background. And of course, Jamf Pro. This is our full-featured Apple lifecycle management tool for organizations of all sizes. I like to think of it as a system of record for Apple products, and when it integrates with other systems, can drive some really awesome automated workflows. Now, what is MDM? Well, simply put, this is the framework by which corporate-owned and even some personally owned devices are deployed and managed across their life. Everything from how we first get those devices out into users' hands and ensure that they have the right settings and restrictions and applications in place on those devices, and do so in a streamlined, over-the-air way. And of course, the ability for IT to report back on the health of an install base and ensure compliance and security. And it's really when you thread these concepts together that you see some of the power of Jamf. We can use configuration profiles to deploy out those very granular settings for a deployment. Of course, then monitor compliance. And with the power of smart groups and scoping in Jamf Pro, take automated action on devices that may be infringing on those compliances to ensure they fall back into the fold. So if that's what MDM does for IT, what does it do for the user? Well, the goal should be to give them a simple, standardized set of resources and applications for the purpose that's at hand. Maybe removing some of the default apps from Apple, etc. And it's really when you take a best-in-class ecosystem like Apple and a Apple-dedicated management platform like Jamf, and you thread that together with Apple's robust automated deployment programs, amazing application and solution partners, that you can unlock some great experiences. And, this is true in all industries, and of course, healthcare is no exception. We know there are a litany of priorities that are facing healthcare executives today. And one common priority that we hear, it really has not changed for quite some time, is how do we put the patient first in everything that we do? How do we truly subscribe to a patient-centric approach to care? Now, again, this is not a new concept. The Healthcare Institute for Improvement's Triple Aim initiative has long established the experience of care alongside cost and population health as the three pillars that a system should focus on. So if this isn't a new priority, well, what has been changing? It's the flood of new technology initiatives that organizations are looking at to achieve this priority that have been adapting. For example, how can we engage patients at the bedside, even put technology into their hands that help them consume care in a better way? How do we streamline and enhance care coordination and clinical workflow through mobile technology so that clinicians and other members of the extended care team are more efficient and spend more time at the bedside? And how do we take that whole concept and actually extend it beyond the four walls of the institution? And of course, this is our focus for today's webinar. How do we extend care into the home? Now, similar to the greater priorities at hand, this too isn't new. Home care at one point in time was the de facto way to deliver care, with doctors making house calls. And over the last 10, 20 years, there have been various technology deployments of early remote monitoring solutions, albeit at the time complicated and expensive. So if that's the state, and there is such rich consumerization of IT with Apple products being accessible and easy to use, wouldn't it be great if there was a way to extend care to home with an Apple device? And it's with that I'd love to bring up Lindsay to tell us about Locus's solution. Lindsay?
Locus is a managed solution that really does focus on the clinician's interaction with their patients and giving them the ability to extend care to home after an episode and being able to stay in touch with them in a meaningful way. And the iPad and what Jamf allows us to do is provide an end user experience that really does allow every patient to be able to interact with their care team, stay involved, stay in touch, but also have a personalized experience and allow the clinician to really lay out a configuration within the tool and within the application that is most suitable for that patient and their disease process or their episode of care, or maybe it's even based on the length of time. So as you can see here, the iPad is the basic tool that we're using to send home with these families. So what we do from the start is focus on what their program is and what they're trying to accomplish. And then this allows us to design the tool and the platform to suit them. Some of the basic capabilities that the tool and then the application that Locus has built enables us to do is push out timely content and education that's not only appropriate for that patient, but also maybe it's a specific day post-discharge that there's a pertinent piece of information that is really specific to engaging them. They are able to submit data points where a clinician can see that in real time. And those data points can vary anywhere from a specific vital sign, a basic vital sign of heart rate, SpO2, weight, to some of the more complicated combined data points of how certain patients may need to send in their intake or their output. As many of you know, patients can have various ways of taking in feeds and post-surgery having various tubes that they may need to measure output. And our tool allows them to configure the data points in the user experience based on what they need. It is able to be translated into Spanish throughout the content and all of the application, and as well as the iPad. And the tool really is able to be adapted across numerous populations, pediatrics and adults, allowing it to really be an enterprise level solution for any hospital because it's based on the way they're able to configure it and change it for their given patients and population. So how does Locus help? Well, we provide the iPads and the logistics, but even before that, the program is really where we want to start. And we always focus on our clinical champion and the leadership that's supporting this program and the specifics of how they want to care for their patients once they're leaving the hospital. And maybe some of their initiatives could be decreasing the length of stay. Maybe it's enabling a new way of caring for a patient at home and sending them home in ways that you haven't done before. A good example of that is in the NICU population, sending home babies with NG tubes and allowing parents to work on their feeding at home and enabling them to monitor that, but also giving them a tool that they can communicate effectively with their clinical team and have real-time monitoring of that data and know that they're progressing as they should. We really focus on that workflow. How is this tool going to change the clinician's interaction with the data? How is a patient now that's submitting data? How are they going to interact with the two? Excuse me. And what are some of the operational efficiencies that we need to focus on? For many of our programs, they may be already monitoring their patients from home. And maybe they're doing it in a way with binders and pens or paper or email or in non-secure ways such as texting or pictures through personal phones that we're trying to change that way. And now with one solution, they're able to submit data, give the clinicians the ability to monitor that, and have it going into one place where the entire care team can interact with this data and see things. So we help with the design of that process and ensure that not only do we have buy-in across the population and with the clinicians, but that it's going to positively affect the workflow and the entire interaction of how even a clinician deploys an iPad is really seamless and becomes a part of the workflow. From an implementation standpoint, we lead with experienced nurses, account managers, who really understand what your patients are experiencing and even some of the pain points as a clinician that you're experiencing in the discharge process. And sometimes the chaos that occurs when you're trying to get a patient to home, educate them. And now we want to give you a tool and implement a process that allows you to really seamlessly give them something that you can rest assured, and mom and dad or a patient can rest assured that they're going to be monitored appropriately. So we enable the scripting, the checklist, the tool in a way that really does become a part of your entire discharge process. And then iPad and the logistics. It is a fully managed solution, thanks to Jamf, who allows us to configure every iPad on a population level and down to a patient level. We can push commands, we can monitor the data, we can make sure that it's wiped and sanitized appropriately on the back end, and we want to make sure that as a clinician, you're able to put this program into place and be able to provide care at home and care for your patients without the worry of cleaning iPads or are they working or do they need service. And so then in our ongoing support, your account managers and your leads stay involved with you to make sure that the everything from the educational content that we've loaded into the tool to how the iPads are going back and forth, and even the patients are able to call us and our 24-hour help desk if they have an issue with the device. And as I see a question around the life of the device. When every iPad comes back into us at the end of a patient episode, we clean it digitally and we clean it physically. And we also make sure that it's in good working order and appropriate to go back into the program. And we monitor your inventory to make sure it's appropriate for your patient population and size, but also that you have appropriate working devices. So as we go into the demo, we can see some of the interactions that a patient may have with the tool. So when they go home with the iPad, they log into our application and they're able to see exactly what's been ordered for them. So as you can see, the vital signs, a very simple, straightforward user experience. So the patient's not really guessing of how to interact with the technology, but is able to seamlessly input their data and see the combination of data points that have been arranged for them by their provider. This is really important. And as Adam mentioned, being in children's hospitals, some of the particulars of how we configure the measurements allow you to be very specific to your patient population needs, down to the decimal point. Some of the capabilities that are available on this basic dashboard are collecting surveys, delivering content, videos, collection of vital signs, pushing out content or messages, and also giving them the ability to submit things that maybe wouldn't happen every day, as well as notes that need to be specific. So patients use this in various ways. They do have the ability to submit a picture and a video clip, which can be a tremendous data point combined with the above vital signs when you're looking at a patient and what their overall status is at home. Alert messages are capable and are presented to the patient in real-time feedback to know they've submitted something that's out of the threshold that the clinician had set for them. Very, very important in giving them the real-time feedback and the phone number that they need to call. So two things are happening. They're seeing the alert message to call and know that they've input something out of range. But you're also, as a clinician, seeing this on your dashboard. Within the application, there's insights. Patients can and parents can see their own trends. Also very empowering when they're going to different providers or wanting to track their own status at home. We offer a basic contact page that allows every program across a health system to put in specific phone numbers directing them back to the appropriate place. And then the FAQ section. Envision your binder, your paperwork, all of the loose content, websites, videos that you may want your families and patients to engage with, putting that into a digital form. So it's easy for them to access, read on their own time, and at the tap of their finger can have the information that you want provided to them. And this content is content that we work with you as a team to put into the tool that suits your program. So they're always hearing the language and the way you want to teach them based on their episode of care specific to them. The calendar function allows them to track the number of days that they've been in the program, but also their compliance. So they know how many data points they've submitted each day, and gives them the ability to go back 5 days and access anything that they may need to. And as we go into the dashboard for the clinician, we want to ensure that our clinicians are having the information right at their fingertips. So our iOS application available on the iPhone and iPad gives our clinicians the ability to see summaries, trends, relevant data points, along with the specifics of the calculations that are needed. Again, this is configured and tailored for your program and your population. Really important when you need to customize the care of your patients, and you need to have quick and easy data points that allow you to call directly to a patient or a parent. Pictures and videos come through. Again, really great data to be able to see when you're looking at these charts and these data points. This iOS-based solution allows our clinicians to be mobile inside and outside the hospital securely, seeing the data that they need to take care of their patients, and also giving them access to call their families directly from the application. This dashboard is also offered in a web-based form that allows a few extra pieces of configuration, but we want to make sure that you are able to be mobile with this application as well. Our use case of the University of Virginia that's deployed numerous populations. We started with the single ventricle program and have expanded that into the NICU, transplant, and numerous adult populations. And some of the early data that's coming out that has really been tremendous is in the neonatal patients finding a early 8-day reduction in the length of stay. One of the strong assumptions in implementing this program and enabling families to go home with NG feeds and monitor that status was that they would be feeding better at home. And that was proven with knowing that when families are going home, their rate of getting to PO feeds is much faster than it was in the hospital. And in combination with the tool, our family satisfaction rates are tremendous in making sure that their patients are cared for. Mom and dad feel very secure caring for their patients at home, their children at home, and staying in touch with their clinicians. One of our favorite quotes is our lead clinician at UVA. It's amazing to see the reassurance that comes when we can send families home with solutions that allow us to stay engaged with us from day one. He adds on to that when he talks about the tool that it gives us ways to care for our families in new ways and in ways that we haven't done before, which is really tremendous when you're wanting these families to be at home. We know that these children do better at home, and our tool allows them to stay connected with their providers in a meaningful way. Thanks, Adam.
Thanks so much, Lindsay. It's just an awesome solution. If you'd like to learn more, head over to locushealth.com. And I'd also encourage you to check out apple.com/healthcare, where you can see a video of this solution in action for neonatal care at UVA. Now, if that's the why, let's talk a little bit about the how. How is mobile device management playing a role to enable this type of experience on these devices? Well, of course, at the heart is Jamf Pro. And there's a few components of Jamf Pro that I'd like to talk through here, starting with initial deployments. The days of old where a device needed to be hands-on configured for any type of use case is gone. And leveraging Apple Business Manager's automated enrollment to an MDM solution is the modern approach. So here you see an iPad being prepared prior to, of course, being given to a patient. And there are 3 quick steps that we go through on that device to get it in communication with Apple services. And of course, once it talks to Apple, well, it's detected as institutionally owned. And Apple Business Manager makes a handshake back to, in this case, Jamf Pro. You'll see that then that automated enrollment to Jamf kicks off. And right when we get up into the device's operating system, we already have the right wallpaper visible for that use case. And very quickly, the right home screen layout of applications and, of course, fresh app installations that weren't there from Apple, i.e. Locus's app, and others are present. Now, beyond this, there's a couple other components that have been very valuable for Locus and really have adapted over the life of the program. So from an iOS restrictions perspective, of course, ensuring that this is a purposeful device and not just used for anything requires a certain approach. Safari content filtering to whitelist and blacklist certain URLs and even video resources designed for patient education has been key. Along with that, if a system that Locus is working with asks for certain restrictions of the default apps from Apple, well, we can, of course, accomplish that. Central here is to disable some of those more personal Apple services like iCloud and the App Store, although Jamf Self-Service, a private app catalog, could certainly be deployed to perhaps offer up choice for some additional apps if necessary. And, one challenge that had been present up until recently was individuals connecting devices, their own devices, to the personal hotspot of this iPad. And in days of old, really, there was no way to control that from MDM. Well, as soon as Apple had introduced that functionality, Jamf supported it here so that we can restrict personal hotspot altogether and ensure that the device has that connectivity for its purpose. Now, how do we keep the device healthy over its life, especially if it's deployed out in a monitoring program? What happens if that period crosses a fall release from Apple of a new iOS version, and there could be a compelling reason we want to take advantage of that new version of iOS? Well, of course, we can do this via MDM on an individual level, all the way up to mass actions of pushing iOS updates across the fleet. Kind of the flip side of that is managing those software updates and deferring them such that the little red badge icon doesn't show up on settings, asking for, of course, the patient to initiate them themselves prior to us certifying key apps compliance with that version. If you can think, again, this device is in somebody's home, there's a point in time that it needs to come back. How do we communicate to that individual? Leveraging MDM's ability to send a push notification to the device itself has been really beneficial. Let's say we have someone in such a maybe a non-compliant type state where we don't hear back from them. Well, of course, there are additional actions that we can take, even putting that device in managed lost mode, locking its functionality and including some messaging saying, hey, this device needs to be recovered, all the way down to fully erasing that device over the air. Now, one way that Locus has been looking to adapt the program is to leverage some of the new functionality that Jamf released last year around shared device deployments. If you can think, there might be multiple populations within a system. For example, Lindsay talked about a NICU program versus an adult transplant program. And maybe each one of those programs has slightly different needs. Of course, the same key application, but maybe additional components alongside of that might change. How can we accomplish that, but actually make it easy such that somebody at the hospital could choose the path for how that device is configured? And at the heart of that is our two new iOS apps, Jamf Setup and Jamf Reset. With Jamf Setup, this is the simplest way for someone to select the configuration of a device without IT's assistance. So here, we have the option to very easily select NICU. And when we get out to the home screen of that device, it's been configured exactly for that use. Now, when the device is out in somebody's home prior to it being recollected, what if they want to ensure that their footprint is gone rather than just putting the device in a box and shipping it back? Well, with Jamf Reset, we would actually allow that functionality and make it easy for a patient or their family to hit the big red easy button and erase that device before shipping it back. And of course, since Apple deployment programs are in the mix, well, we know that upon completion of this, that device will automatically re-enroll to Jamf Pro so it can be set up for the next use. So to recap, we have an awesome solution to monitor patients at home, and at the heart of that is Locus Health. Can't stress enough how excited we are to connect with you after today's webinar and see how this program might work for your institution. A few specific next steps. Head over to jamf.com for all things Jamf. There are a number of exciting announcements we've made over this year and will continue to make in all areas of our business. And for everything in the world of healthcare, check out /healthcare for that dedicated landing page. I mentioned that this was part 3 of our webinar series this spring. Part 1 on bedside patient experience, as well as part 2 on clinical communication and workflow are available to stream on demand. And of course, we'd invite you to Jamf Nation, our community of 75,000 Apple IT administrators around the globe, and engage in discussion about what you're seeing both in healthcare and beyond. For any developers that may be watching today, know that we can assist you with your solutions and have a great program that you can check out at developer.jamf.com. Many of those solutions, and Locus is included, can be found out on our marketplace. Marketplace.jamf.com is where you can see key application partners and even managed service providers that help you get the most out of Jamf or the most out of a technology solution for a purpose like this. For more specific information about the Jamf Pro and Locus solution, check out jamf.it/Locus. We have a great solution brochure that can be shared with others in your institution, highlighting some of the key capabilities that Lindsay covered today in their apps. And if you'd like to engage in a dialogue, there is a link from that sheet that will get your information right back over to us. So it's with that I'd love to transition to a couple quick questions. And Lindsay, I see a few coming in here for you, so I'll take you off mute. First, are these workflows designed to integrate seamlessly with EMRs such as Cerner or Epic?
Yes, Adam. I actually am answering some of these in the Q&A section over here. We do offer integration. Locus offers a tiered integration approach that allows us to match the health system's needs. So for initial programs, we can start with a VPN connection to get you up and going with your initial population. And then most health systems look across at the number of populations that they'll have remotely monitoring, and then look at the tiered options. And we want to make sure it meets your health system's needs and your EMR needs.
Awesome. Thanks, Lindsay. And I do see you're answering some of these in line, so that's great. There was another question about the MDM functionality. Is there a difference between using Jamf Reset and using the Erase All Content and Settings button in general settings? Great question, James. Both will accomplish the same purpose. If you do just erase a device locally from itself, not using our app, but just the default settings, well, it of course will process the erase, and yes, we'll re-enroll to Jamf. Now, one thing is that MDM doesn't have any visibility to that. So there could be pending commands or installations, etc., that are kind of queued up, if you will, from MDM that have no knowledge of that process. So it's always best to issue an MDM wipe command, either one, from the MDM console itself, or two, to make it easy, Jamf reset from the device. Now, I know we're just a minute over, but one last question. Lindsay, can you speak to how small a program could be? Obviously, you have some clients that have scaled to many different, populations, but what's a good starting point for an institution to dig into?
Yeah, a lot of our populations start with a smaller group of patients. Anywhere from 20 to 50 a year is some of our smaller populations and programs. We really want to give you the ability as a health system or as a program to say, I only have 5 patients I want to monitor, or I have hundreds or thousands of patients I want to monitor. So our pricing structure meets you there on a per episode basis. But also the deployment style allows us to really recognize whatever numbers you have. We also tightly manage the inventory to make sure that you don't have waste. And with the cycle of the iPad, we make it easy for patients to return to us, and we get it back into your workflow or into your program in a really timely manner. So there is no too small of a population to get started with in a pilot phase. And of course, there's no population too big as well.
Awesome. Well, with that, thank you, Lindsay, and thank you to the rest of you for joining today. As I mentioned, this will be posted on our website in about a week if you'd like to share it with others. Thanks so much, and have a great rest of your day.